The galaxy had seen many tests of strength, but this one was different and darker than any before. It was made not only to challenge the body, but to crush the human spirit itself. And in the hearts of those who heard about it, there was a cold fear that refused to leave. A massive alien empire known as the Drether had ruled the outer systems for centuries, and their warriors were feared across the stars. They had created something they called the Trial of Silence, a brutal military trial that stripped away weapons technology and even sound itself, leaving only instinct, strength, and willpower to decide who lived and who died for generations. Only the strongest alien species had dared to attempt it, and many had never returned. The record was merciless. 5 species had faced the trial, and all had been broken, each ending with death or surrender. Some had lasted hours, some only minutes. The Drether kept the trial's exact nature a mystery, but their message was always the same: we will see who endures. No human had ever been invited before, and when a message arrived on Earth, it sent shock through every level of command. The alien challenge was not a friendly invitation. It was a test meant to prove that humans were weak. Earth's leaders met behind closed doors, debating if they should even accept. Some argued it was a trap. Others feared that refusing would brand humanity as cowards across the galaxy. But in the end, they chose to send a team. Not to win, but to show that humans would stand even when defeat was certain. The team was small, only 6 soldiers led by Captain Reyes, a man who had fought in some of the harshest wars of Earth's recent history. His record was flawless, his will unbreakable, or so everyone believed. When he was told about the trial, he did not hesitate. He simply nodded and said, "Tell me, when and where." In the weeks before departure, the team trained harder than ever. They studied alien environments, survival tactics, and hand-to-hand combat. They practiced without comms, without modern gear, without rest. They knew nothing could truly prepare them for what the Drether had built, but they refused to walk in blind. Rumors spread quickly across human colonies, and even among alien traders. The Trial of Silence was whispered about in bars and ports. Some claimed it took place in a maze of burning storms. Others said it was inside a living creature's body. Some said the Drether used machines to turn pain into visions that drove warriors insane. Every story was worse than the last, and no one could say which was true. The day of the trial arrived, and the human team was flown aboard the Drether mothership. It was a massive black vessel, like a mountain drifting in the void, its walls curved in unnatural ways, as if it had grown rather than been built. The air inside was cold and heavy, with a strange metallic scent that clung to the skin. In the hangar, the humans stood together, their gear stripped down to the bare minimum. No rifles, no armor, only simple protection and blades. The Drether stood on platforms above them, their tall bodies wrapped in segmented armor that gleamed like obsidian. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, watching the humans as if they were prey waiting to be tested. Captain Reyes kept his focus straight ahead, his breath slow and steady. His team beside him. Then the alien commander stepped forward, his armor engraved with symbols of countless battles. He leaned closer, his voice low and filled with something between amusement and contempt. "We want to see you break," he said, each word rolling like cold metal into their ears. Reyes did not answer. He did not even blink. He knew the Drether thrived on fear, and he would give them none. The commander's smile was thin as he gestured toward the massive gates ahead, and with a grinding roar they began to open, revealing only darkness beyond. The Drether announcer's voice echoed through the hangar in their own language, the meaning translated in the human earpieces. "The trial begins now. Survive or be forgotten." The humans moved forward, stepping into the shadow of the gates. The floor beneath them felt like stone, yet hummed faintly, as if alive. The air grew warmer with each step until it was almost stifling. Then a flicker of light appeared ahead, and another, until the darkness was swallowed by a blazing sight that made even Reyes pause. Before them stretched a wall of fire, rising higher than buildings and running so far in both directions that it seemed endless. The flames roared, but there was no smoke, only waves of heat that shimmered in the air. The humans felt sweat forming instantly, and the heat clawed at their lungs. The alien spectators above laughed, the sound deep and cruel for them. This was only the first step, and they believed the humans would falter here. But Reyes signaled his team forward, his voice calm: "Keep moving, keep breathing." They stepped closer, and the heat intensified. Each breath felt heavier, and the light from the fire made their eyes ache. but something else was wrong. The ground began to tremble faintly at first, then harder, as if something massive was moving beyond the flames. A shadow flickered deep within the fire, large and fast, moving. The sound of heavy impacts came through the heat like distant thunder. One of the soldiers glanced at Reyes, eyes wide. "Captain, there's something in there." Reyes kept his gaze fixed ahead. "Whatever it is, it's coming for us. We hold formation and we adapt." The shadow moved again, closer, now the flames parting just enough to reveal the edge of something metallic and jagged. Then it was gone, swallowed by the fire. Once more the heat became almost unbearable, now the kind that could blister skin in seconds, and still the tremors came, each stronger than the last. The Drether above leaned forward, watching eagerly, as if they knew exactly what was about to happen, their laughter growing louder. Reyes knew there was no turning back. To retreat now would mean the trial was over before it began, and humanity's first attempt would end in shame. So he gritted his teeth, raised his hand, and gave the signal for the team to move into the fire itself. The moment they crossed the threshold, the roar of the flames swallowed every other sound, and the heat wrapped around them like a living thing. The world became nothing but orange and gold flickers and the constant shimmer of the air ahead. And then, without warning, the shadow and the fire surged forward, moving directly toward them, fast enough to send a fresh wave of heat and dust into their faces. Whatever it was big, it was fast, and it was almost here. They step into the flames, but the heat is not what scares them most. The air is alive with movement, and the fire twists unnaturally, as if shaped by something huge hidden inside the wall of fire. The ground shudders again, each tremor stronger and faster, like a heartbeat growing louder, and then the shadow bursts through the flames. It is not a creature of flesh, but a machine forged from black metal, shaped like a giant beast. Its legs are like pillars slamming into the ground with such force the stone beneath cracks. With every step, its body is covered with sharp blades that glow red from the heat, and where a head should be, there is only a glowing furnace of molten light. The alien spectators cheer with excitement, their voices echoing through the trial arena. They have seen this machine before, and they know it was built for one purpose: to hunt and kill. Inside the Trial of Silence, the Drether call it the Ashhound, a relentless predator that senses movement through heat and vibration. It cannot be outrun, and it does not stop until its target is destroyed. The human team spreads out, keeping low their training, taking over without a word. Captain Reyes signals them with his hand. They need to move in unison to confuse the Ashhound. Its heavy steps send sparks into the air, and every movement is followed by a deep rumble through the ground. The heat makes it hard to breathe, but the humans have endured worse in deserts and burning cities back on Earth. Private Lien moves first, rolling to one side and drawing the beast's attention. The massive furnace head swings toward her, heat sensors locking on, but before it can charge, Sergeant Cole slams a fragment of stone against the ground on the opposite side. The vibration makes the Ashhound pause, confused by the split signals. Reyes seizes the moment to lead the others forward, each step calculated. They are heading toward the far end of the fire zone, where the flames burn lower, and there might be an opening, but as they move, the machine recovers and lunges forward, blades scraping the floor, sparks scattering in all directions. The team dives apart just in time. The Ashhound crashes into the stone where they had been standing. The impact sends shards of rock flying, cutting into their arms and legs, but no one cries out. They know making sound could give them away even faster. The fire around them is not natural. It shifts with the movement of the machine, as if the Ashhound is part of its design, and Reyes realizes the truth. The flames are a weapon too. They are meant to hurt the challengers, to push them where the machine wants them to go. Above the arena, the Drether commander leans forward, watching with a smile. He knows the humans are beginning to see the design of the trial, but understanding does not mean escape. The team regroups in a small pocket of cooler air, where the flames are thinner. Reyes points to a ridge of black stone jutting from the ground near the far side. If they can reach it, they might be able to climb out of the Ashhound's hunting range, but getting there will mean crossing open ground with no cover. Private Nia volunteers to draw its attention. She ties a strip of fabric from her sleeve to the end of a broken blade and waves it through the air. The heat from the flames makes it shimmer like prey. The Ashhound reacts instantly, turning toward her and charging with a burst of speed that shakes the entire chamber. Nia sprints to the left, the machine right behind her, its legs smashing down inches from her heels. The others take the chance to run in the opposite direction toward the Blackstone Ridge. But the moment they reach it, they see the next problem. The ridge is slick with some kind of oil-like substance, and the heat makes it slippery. Climbing will be slow and dangerous. Reyes is the first to start the climb, his hands gripping every crack in the stone, his boots sliding as he pushes upward. The others follow. But the Ashhound realizes the trick too quickly. It abandons its chase of Nia and turns toward the ridge, its massive body crashing through the firewall in a shower of sparks. Nia runs back toward the group, her chest heaving with effort, but she knows she cannot outpace the machine on flat ground. She reaches for the throwing knife at her belt, and with all her strength hurls it toward the Ashhound's glowing furnace. The blade hits and vanishes instantly in the molten light. But the impact makes the beast pause for a heartbeat, and in that moment she leaps and catches Reyes's outstretched arm, letting him haul her onto the ridge. The Ashhound slams into the base of the stone, trying to shake them loose. The entire ridge trembles, but the humans cling on, climbing higher. The flames below swirl and hiss in frustration. The Drether crowd grows restless. They had expected screams by now, yet the humans refuse to give them that satisfaction. Finally, the team reaches the top of the ridge and sees the other side. There is no safety waiting for them. Instead, the ground drops into a vast open chamber, the fire replaced by a cold white mist that curls and twists across the floor. The mist is so thick they cannot see more than a few steps ahead. They slide down into the mist, the air instantly colder, the heat of the fire replaced by a biting chill. It sinks into their bones, making their muscles stiffen. Their breaths come out in clouds of vapor. The sudden change in temperature is shocking and designed to weaken them after the exhausting heat of the flames. As they move forward, shapes begin to form in the mist, tall, thin figures with arms too long and heads that tilt unnaturally. The figures do not make a sound, but they move with slow, deliberate steps toward the humans. Reyes raises his hand, telling the team to stop. Every instinct tells them that these things are not illusions. The Trial of Silence is known for breaking challengers with both physical and mental strain, and whatever these creatures are, they are here to push the humans to their limit. The mist swirls thicker around them, the figures closing in from all sides, and the cold grows sharper until it feels like knives against their skin. The Drether above lean in with anticipation, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light as they wait for the moment when the humans can no longer endure. But Reyes's eyes narrow, his voice low and steady. Stay together. Keep moving. Do not let them separate us. The figures keep coming, silent and relentless, their shapes flickering in and out of the mist as if they are part of it. And somewhere ahead in the white fog, a deep vibration begins to build. Something huge is moving toward them, and it is coming fast. The aliens believe this is the end, but the humans see something the Drether cannot understand. In the midst of fear and confusion, they see opportunity. Captain Reyes scans the white mist and catches sight of something faint above the shapes ahead. A line in the air, a vent small and narrow far above the ground, too small for most alien warriors, but not impossible for a human willing to risk the climb. The figures in the mist move closer, their heads tilting in unison, their long arms swaying slowly as if testing the humans. The cold is almost unbearable now, seeping into joints and muscles, but Reyes does not slow. He motions for Sergeant Cole and Private Lien to take point while Nia and the others guard the rear. The vent is their target, and they must reach it before the shapes close in completely. They move in tight formation, each step careful. The mist swirls thick around their legs, and the sound of the deep vibration ahead grows louder. Now, like a giant heartbeat, the Drether in the stands lean forward, their glowing eyes fixed on the team. They know what comes next, the thing that has ended every challenger who reached this chamber. Through the fog, a shadow begins to rise, impossibly tall and impossibly thin, its movements slow, yet full of terrible purpose, its arms nearly scraping the ground, its head crowned with jagged bone like spines. The alien crowd murmurs with satisfaction as the challenger emerges. This is the Wraithkeeper, a predator that hunts not with speed, but with fear itself. The Keeper moves no faster than a walk, but every step sends a pulse through the mist that makes the humans' hearts pound harder. Their breath comes faster, sweat breaking through the cold. Their minds feel heavy, as if each thought is being pulled down into darkness. Reyes forces his focus on the vent above. It is their only chance. He points toward a nearby column of dark stone rising from the mist. If they can climb it, they might be able to reach the vent before the keeper closes in. But the moment they start moving, the smaller mist figures react, lunging forward with sudden speed, their arms stretching unnaturally long to grab at ankles and wrists. Private Lien lashes out with her blade, slicing through the arm of one of the creatures. The limb falls away, dissolving in a mist, but the figure keeps coming unfazed. The team pushes toward the column, Nia covering their flank with quick, precise strikes, each swing cutting through pale limbs that try to drag them back. The keeper's shadow looms closer, its presence pressing down like a physical weight. Reyes reaches the base of the column and begins to climb. The stone is cold and slick, but there are cracks and holds just enough to pull himself upward. Cole follows, then Lien, the others keeping the creatures at bay below. The mist swirls violently, now reacting to the movement as if alive. One of the figures manages to seize Nia's arm, pulling her toward the ground. She grits her teeth and twists free with a sharp kick, the cold biting in her skin through the torn sleeve. She grabs the edge of the column and starts climbing. The keeper is close now, its jagged crown almost touching the base of the stone, its arms reaching upward, slow but unstoppable. Reyes reaches the top of the column and without hesitation leaps for the vent, his hands catching the narrow edge. His shoulders strain as he hauls himself inside the opening, barely wider than his body. He calls down for the others to follow. Cole makes the jump next, barely grabbing the edge, his fingers slipping on the frost before Reyes hauls him in. Below, the mist churns, the creatures clawing at the stone, the keeper rising higher, its crown scraping the column's surface. Lien makes the jump, landing hard against the edge, but pulling herself in with a grunt. Nia is last, the keeper's arm sweeping upward toward her in a slow, inevitable arc. She jumps at the last possible second, feeling the icy air rush past. As the clawed fingers miss her by inches, Reyes pulls her into the vent, the cold vanishing as the opening seals behind them with a heavy, metallic hiss. Inside the vent, the air is thin and biting. They crawl forward in near darkness, the only light coming from faint blue strips along the metal walls. The space is tight, forcing them to move one after another. The sound of the keeper fades behind them, replaced by the low hum of machinery. After several minutes, the vent opens into a new chamber, this one blindingly bright. After the gloom, the floor is made of pale metal plates arranged in shifting patterns. The air carries a thin, acrid smell that makes their throats burn. At the far end of the chamber, a series of gates stand closed behind them. The sound of grinding gears begins to echo. Without warning, the floor shifts beneath their feet, panels sliding apart to reveal sharp metallic teeth. Below, the gaps are too wide to cross in a single leap, and the panels keep moving, changing the path with every second. Reyes realizes this is a puzzle of movement, a trap meant to exhaust and confuse them until they fall into the grinding jaws below. Cole moves first, jumping to a panel ahead, but the moment his weight hits it, the piece begins to slide toward the edge, forcing him to leap again. Reyes calls out instructions, calculating the shifting patterns as fast as he can. The team moves together, timing each jump with precision, but the floor's movements grow faster, the grinding noise rising. Halfway across the chamber, the lights begin to flicker, the acrid smell growing stronger. Nia shouts that the air is becoming toxic. Reyes feels it too, the burn in his lungs sharper. Now, they cannot afford to hesitate, with the floor speeding up and the air choking them. They push faster, leaping from plate to plate as the grinding jaws snap below, inches from their boots. Finally, Reyes spots a section of the floor that stays still longer than the rest, a small island in the chaos. He directs the team there, and from that point, they make the final leaps toward the far gates, landing hard on solid ground as the plates behind them vanish completely into the grinding maw. The gates slide open with a deep metallic groan, revealing a vast frozen chamber. The air is bitterly cold, the floor a sheet of black ice stretching far into the distance. At the far end, faint lights glow in patterns like constellations, but between here and there, something massive stirs under the ice, sending ripples through the frozen surface. The alien spectators roar with anticipation. They know this stage well, and not a single challenger has crossed it alive. Reyes studies the shifting shadows under the ice and realizes the truth. Whatever is beneath them is awake and waiting, and every step forward will bring it closer. Every alien warrior who reached this stage had died within minutes, and the Drether knew why the thing beneath the black ice was no ordinary creature. It was the Frost Maw predator, as old as the frozen moons of the Drether homeworld, and it hunted by listening through the ice for the smallest vibration. Captain Reyes stood at the edge of the frozen floor. His team, close behind the cold, was sharp enough to cut through their thin gear. Every breath turning to white vapor that hung in the air. The ice beneath them shimmered with faint blue veins that pulsed slowly like the heartbeat of a living thing. The alien spectators high above watched with a hunger in their eyes. They wanted to see the ice turn red again. Reyes raised a hand, telling his team to hold. Still, he knew the Frost Maw would strike if they moved too quickly. The ice was covered in a thin layer of frost that made every step a risk. One wrong move, and the sound of cracking could carry far below, announcing their position to the monster waiting underfoot. Private Lien crouched low and tapped the ice gently with a knife. The faintest ripple moved outward from the point of contact and vanished into the distance. A moment later, the ripple came back twice as fast, followed by a deep rumble that they could feel through their boots. Nia whispered that it was circling them just beneath the surface. They had no choice but to cross the expanse. The only visible exit was a dark arch at the far end, glowing faintly with red light. Reyes signaled for them to spread their weight and move in a slow, staggered pattern, each person stepping only when the one before them had paused. The cold bit into their muscles, making movement painful, but they pressed forward, each step a battle against both the ice and their own bodies. The first attack came without warning. A crack split the ice beside Sergeant Cole, and a spear of frozen water shot upward narrowly, missing his leg. The Frost Maw retreated instantly, but the sound of the ice breaking echoed far and wide, and now the deep rumble grew louder. The creature was hunting in earnest. Reyes ordered everyone to freeze. No one breathed for several seconds. The ice hummed softly under them, and then the sound began to fade. The Frost Maw moving off in another direction. Reyes knew they would not get another lucky escape. They needed a plan to distract it long enough to make the final run to the other side. Nia reached in her gear and pulled out a small flare, one of the few things they had been allowed to carry. She lit it and tossed it far to their left. The red light spun across the ice, skidding to a stop near the far edge. The heat from the flare began to melt the ice around it, sending a sharp hiss into the cold air. The Frost Maw reacted instantly, the rumble surging toward the flare, its massive shadow visible beneath the surface. With the beast drawn away, Reyes gave the signal, and the team moved faster. Their boots sliding slightly on the frost. The dark archway grew closer, the veins in the ice pulsing faster now, as if the entire frozen field knew they were trying to escape. But halfway across, the flare died out, and the rumble changed direction once again. The Frost Maw came fast this time, a jagged spike of ice tearing through the surface between Lien and Nia, cutting off their path. The ice groaned and buckled under the force, and the shadow of the creature rose higher, its head almost breaking the surface. Its shape was monstrous, all jagged angles, and glistening teeth made of solid ice, its eyes glowing with a pale light that seemed to see straight through them. Reyes reacted instantly, slamming the butt of his blade into the ice behind him, sending a sharp vibration away from the team. The Frost Maw turned toward the sound, giving them just enough time to leap across the gap. It had made Cole grab Nia by the arm, hauling her forward as another spike of ice tore upward where she had been standing seconds earlier. The last stretch to the archway felt endless, each step echoing like thunder in their ears. The rumble beneath them was constant now, the Frost Maw tracking their every move. They could see its jagged head pacing them under the ice, waiting for the moment. They slowed just enough for it to strike. Reyes could feel the cold seeping into his bones, but he forced his legs to move faster, the red glow of the arch growing larger with every breath. The beast struck again, the ice exploding upward in a spray of shards. Reyes and Cole dove aside, while Lien drove her blade deep into the jagged head, forcing it back. Beneath the surface, the sound it made was not a roar, but a low, deep vibration that rattled through the ice like distant thunder. Finally, they reached the black edge of the archway and leapt on a solid ground behind them. The Frost Maw slammed against the edge of the ice, sending a spray of shards into the air. The alien spectators erupted into cheers and shouts, the first challengers in decades to survive the frozen chamber. The air beyond the arch was warmer, heavy with the scent of oil and metal. The walls shimmered with a faint golden light that seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the ice veins behind them. The floor here was solid metal, but covered in strange markings like trails burned into the surface. They had no time to rest. The ground ahead was not empty. It was filled with moving shapes, tall mechanical figures with glowing blue eyes, each holding long-bladed weapons. Their movements, slow and deliberate. The Drether announcer's voice rolled across the chamber in a language the humans could not understand, but the meaning was clear. This was the final stage before the central arena, and the machines ahead were guardians meant to cut down anything that passed. The guardians began to move forward, their footsteps heavy and in perfect unison, the sound echoing off the walls. Reyes knew they could not fight all of them head-on. They needed to use the terrain to their advantage. The markings on the floor caught his eye. They formed a pattern leading in a winding path between the guardians. He signaled for the team to follow the pattern, moving quickly but silently. As they weaved through the lines, the guardians did not react as long as the humans stayed within the pattern. The moment Cole stepped 1 foot outside, a guardian's head snapped toward him, its blade swinging down in a blur. Reyes shoved him back, just in time, the blade slamming into the floor with a clang that shook the entire chamber. The alien spectators above murmured in surprise, watching the humans decipher the deadly maze with speed and precision. Step by step, they advanced, the guardians moving like statues around the blades, ready but held at bay by the pattern etched into the floor. The final gate loomed ahead, massive and sealed with thick bars of black metal. As they reached the final stretch, the markings ended, forcing them to step into open ground. The guardians reacted instantly, breaking formation and rushing forward with blades raised. Reyes drew his weapon, his voice sharp and clear. Good, now it's our turn. And the chamber filled with the sound of steel meeting steel as the humans faced the guardians head-on. The floor vanishes and gravity pulls them into the unknown. There is no time to react, no chance to grab hold. They drop through darkness, the rush of air in their ears, the cold taste of metal on their tongues, until they crash onto a strange surface that bounces beneath their weight. The air is thick and damp, and the only light comes from faint glowing spores drifting down from the unseen ceiling. The spores touch their skin and armor with a faint hiss, leaving small burning marks wherever they land. Nia swats at them, but they stick like living things, wriggling before dissolving into a stinging residue. Sergeant Cole curses under his breath, his voice low enough not to echo. Reyes signals everyone to stay low and move carefully. The air here is wrong, the scent sharp and chemical, like the breath of some hidden predator. The ground is soft underfoot, spongy and uneven, each step sinking slightly into it, as though they are walking on the flesh of something alive. The spores drift thicker ahead, glowing brighter in the gloom, and forming a pale curtain that sways with unseen air currents behind it. Shapes move slow and deliberate, tall and hunched with movements that feel unnatural, like they are listening for the humans in the dark. One of the shapes steps forward, breaking the spore curtain. Its body is covered in a strange chitin that glistens with moisture, its arms long, ending in hooked claws that drip with a black liquid. Its face is hidden under a smooth mask without eyes, yet the humans can feel its attention like a weight on their chests. It tilts its head and lets out a low, rasping sound that vibrates through the air like an insect's wings. More shapes emerge from the spores, circling slowly, their claws tapping lightly against the soft ground, each sound sending a shiver through the human team. Reyes scans the area and spots a dark tunnel ahead, half hidden by hanging spores. It is the only way forward, but the creatures are between them and it. Reyes gestures for a diversion. Cole nods and draws a small flare from his belt, snapping it to life. The red light flickers against the pale spores, casting long shadows. The nearest creature reacts instantly, its clawed arms rising as it moves toward the flare. With a strange jerking gait, another follows, then another, their attention fixed on the light. Nia and Lien take the chance to slip around to the left, moving in silence through the spores, every step slow and measured. Reyes stays at the rear, watching the creatures and ready to act if they turn. The air grows hotter. Near the tunnel, the spores thicker and the smell sharper, like burning metal mixed with decay. As they near the tunnel, one of the creatures turns its head sharply toward them, its clawed feet digging into the ground. As it lets out a loud, vibrating screech, the sound cuts through the chamber, making the spores scatter like startled insects. The other creatures stop moving, and all at once every head turns toward the humans. Reyes shouts for everyone to run. The soft ground slows their steps, but adrenaline drives them faster. The creatures burst forward, claws tearing into the spongy surface, sending chunks flying in all directions. The humans reach the tunnel entrance, sliding down into its darkness, the sound of claws scraping against the walls close behind. The tunnel is narrow and twists sharply, the ground shifting from soft to hard stone, the air cooler, but filled with a steady metallic hum. The light from the spores fades until they are moving through total darkness, the only sounds their breathing and the echo of their steps. The hum grows louder ahead until it becomes a deep, vibrating thrum that they can feel in their bones. The tunnel opens suddenly into a massive chamber lit by shifting golden panels that move along the walls like giant gears. In the center stands a machine unlike anything they have seen before, its base rooted deep into the ground, its upper body covered in rotating arms tipped with blades, drills, and strange glowing tools. The machine turns slowly, as if aware of their presence. Though it has no eyes, its movements are precise and deliberate, each arm shifting into a new configuration with a hiss of steam and the grinding of metal. The floor around it is littered with fragments of armor and weapons from past challengers, the air thick with the scent of oil and something burnt. The Drether voice echoes faintly through hidden speakers in the chamber, a slow, cold tone, speaking words that the humans cannot fully understand, but the meaning is clear. This is the jaw of the trial, and its purpose is simple: to crush anything that dares to pass. The ground trembles as the machine begins to move, each step sending out a vibration that rattles the panels on the walls. Reyes motions for the team to spread out using the moving golden panels for cover. The machine tracks movement, its arms lashing out with terrifying speed, smashing into the walls and floor with enough force to send shards of metal flying. Cole ducks behind a panel as a blade sweeps past him, cutting the air inches from his head. Nia darts forward, her small blade flashing as she slashes at a joint in one of the machine's arms. Sparks fly, but the metal is too thick to cut through. The machine turns toward her, its drills spinning with a high-pitched whine. Lien throws a piece of broken armor to one side, the clatter drawing its attention just long enough for Nia to retreat. Reyes studies the machine's movements, looking for a weakness, and then he sees it every time the arms retract. They pass over a small gap in the lower plating, exposing a cluster of moving gears. He signals to the team, pointing at the gap. They will need to lure it into attacking and then strike in perfect timing. Cole takes the risk, stepping into the open and shouting. The machine reacts instantly, its largest arm swinging down with crushing force. Cole dives aside as the arm slams into the floor, leaving the gap exposed for a heartbeat. Reyes and Lien charge forward, driving their blades deep into the gears. Sparks erupt in a blinding shower, and the machine emits a grinding roar like tearing steel. The arms thrash wildly, striking walls and panels, sending pieces crashing to the ground. The gap widens under the assault, and the machine's movements grow jerky. Reyes yells for everyone to push the attack. They tear at the exposed gears with blades and fragments of metal, until one final strike from Nia wedges deep inside the mechanism. The jaw of the trial shudders and collapses into stillness, steam hissing from its joints. The far wall begins to rise, revealing another passage lit by a dim red glow. The air flowing from it is warm and carries the faint sound of a crowd cheering. The Drether arena is close, and whatever waits, there will be the true heart of the trial. Reyes looks at his team, each face marked with exhaustion and determination. They step into the red light, the sound of the crowd growing louder with every step, knowing that the final test is about to begin. The red glow deepens as they move forward, the heat rising with every step. The tunnel widens, and the sound of the crowd becomes a thunder that shakes the walls ahead. The floor changes to smooth black stone carved with symbols that pulse faintly like the slow beat of a heart. The air feels heavy, pressing against their skin and carrying the scent of smoke and something sharp like ozone. They reach a massive gate, shaped like the open jaws of some great beast, its teeth carved from gleaming metal, its eyes glowing with a cold white light. The roar of the unseen crowd swells. As the gate begins to rise, the sound of grinding stone and heavy chains filling the tunnel. The light from outside spills in bright and hot, making their shadows stretch long across the floor. When the gate is fully open, they step out onto a wide platform overlooking a colossal arena. The walls rise high into the darkness, filled with thousands of Drether, their bodies tall and thin, their faces hidden behind smooth bone masks. Their voices blend into a single, unending roar that vibrates in the bones of anyone who hears it. The floor of the arena is made of cracked red stone, with deep scars and blackened pits marking where battles have raged before. In the center stands a circle of pillars, each one wrapped with thick chains that hang loose, as if waiting to be used. Strange weapons are mounted on the tops of some pillars, and others drip with dark liquid that sizzles when it hits the ground. The Drether announcer's voice booms across the arena, speaking in their alien tongue, the meaning carried by the cold intent in the tone. The trial is not over. The final challenge begins now. The ground shakes as the far side of the arena opens, and something massive steps into the light. It is a creature unlike any the humans have faced before, towering twice the height of a man, its body covered in dark plated armor that moves like living skin. Its arms are thick, ending in hands with 3 long claws, each as sharp as a blade. Its head is narrow, with a mouth full of jagged teeth and eyes that burn with pale green fire. The Drether call it the Harrowborn, and it moves with the slow confidence of something that has never lost. The Harrowborn's breath comes in deep hissing waves, each exhale sending small clouds of steam into the air. It carries no weapon, because it is the weapon. The claws gleam under the light, and the ground cracks beneath its heavy steps. Reyes signals the team to spread out, keeping low and moving carefully. The crowd grows louder, with every motion the sound like a storm above them. The Harrowborn tilts its head, its gaze locking onto Cole, who is the furthest from the group. It moves with sudden speed, closing the distance in moments. Cole dives aside, but the claws tear a deep groove into the stone where he stood a second ago. The heat from the strike lingers in the air, like the creature's touch burns everything it meets. Nia takes the chance to dash toward one of the pillars, grabbing a weapon mounted there, a long staff tipped with a curved blade that hums with energy. The Harrowborn turns toward her, but Reyes throws a chunk of broken stone at its head. The hit barely makes it flinch, but it does turn its attention, giving Nia enough time to circle behind it. She swings the blade, and it bites into the armored plates, sending a small shower of sparks. But the creature spins with terrifying speed, its tail whipping out and striking her in the side, sending her rolling across the floor, gasping for breath. Lien moves to cover her, drawing the Harrowborn's focus again. The creature lunges forward, its claws slamming into the ground and sending cracks racing outward. Reyes shouts for everyone to use the pillars for cover, and they scatter, moving between the tall stone structures as the Harrowborn prowls among them, each step slow and deliberate. As it hunts, the crowd chants in a rhythm that matches the beat of its steps. Cole notices that the chains hanging from the pillars are connected through the ground to a set of mechanisms near the walls. If they can trap the Harrowborn between enough of them, they might hold it long enough to strike deep. Reyes catches on quickly and begins directing the team to lure it into the right position. They move like shadows, darting in and out of sight, striking when they can, and always retreating before the claws find them. Bit by bit, they lead it into the center of the pillars. Cole grabs one of the chains and yanks hard. The mechanism clicks, and the chain whips upward, wrapping around the creature's arm. It roars a sound like tearing stone and thrashes, but Reyes and Lien move to pull more chains until its arms and legs are caught in a tightening web. The Harrowborn strains against them, its claws scraping sparks on the stone, but for the first time, it cannot move freely. Nia, despite the pain in her side, forces herself to rise, gripping the humming blade with both hands. She charges forward, aiming for the gap between the plates at its neck. The Harrowborn sees her and lets out a sound that rattles the arena, but the chains hold for just long enough. She drives the blade deep into the gap, the hum turning into a sharp crack as the energy surges through the creature's body. The Harrowborn convulses, the green fire in its eyes flaring before fading to black. The chains snap under its final thrash, and it collapses to the ground. With a heavy crash, the arena falls silent for a heartbeat. then erupts into a deafening roar. The Drether masks tilt toward the humans, some in what might be respect, others in cold calculation. The announcer's voice returns, carrying over the noise the words alien, yet the meaning unmistakable. They have survived the trial, but the tone carries something else, as well, a warning that this victory is not the end. The floor of the arena begins to shift, the pillars sinking into the ground and revealing a spiral staircase leading down into darkness. The red light fades, replaced by a pale blue glow from below. Reyes looks at his team, each face marked with exhaustion, but also the fire of survival. They have no choice but to continue. The Drether watch in silence now, their voices gone, replaced by a strange stillness, as if the entire arena is holding its breath. The humans step onto the staircase, descending into whatever waits below, knowing that the final truth of the trial will be far worse than anything they have faced above. The staircase feels endless, each step echoing in the narrow stone shaft. The pale blue glow grows brighter, yet the air becomes colder with every turn of the spiral. Their breath hangs in the air like mist, and the walls sweat with moisture. The sound of the arena above fades until there is only the steady drip of water somewhere below and the quiet rhythm of their boots on stone. When they reach the bottom, the space opens into a wide chamber. Its ceiling so high it is lost in shadow. The floor is a mirror, smooth and black, reflecting the glow from strange crystal spires that rise in a circle around the center of the room. Each spire hums faintly, the vibration sinking into their bones. The air smells metallic, sharp, and ancient. In the middle of the spire circle is a single pedestal made of the same black stone as the floor. Upon it rests a sphere of clear glass inside, which a faint light swirls like smoke in water. The Drether commander from before steps out from the shadows, his tall, thin frame, draped in long robes. The bone mask tilts slightly as he studies the humans. His voice is quiet, yet it carries perfectly in the vast space. He says they have passed the trial of silence. But the true purpose of the trial was never to test strength or skill. It was to see if humans could resist the call of the sphere. Reyes asks what the sphere is, but the commander does not answer. Instead, he gestures toward it, saying only that no one who has touched it has walked away unchanged. The Drether step back into the shadows, leaving the humans alone in the cold glow of the chamber. The silence presses in on them, heavy as the deep ocean. The light inside the sphere begins to pulse slowly, as if it is breathing the rhythm, matching their own heartbeats, each pulse brighter than the last, until the entire room seems to fade, and all that remains is the glow. Reyes feels a pull in his chest, like invisible threads drawing him toward the pedestal. The others feel it too. Nia grips the hilt of her weapon tightly, as if anchoring herself, while Cole takes a half step forward before stopping, his eyes wide, as if hearing something the others cannot. A low sound begins to rise from the sphere, not a voice, not exactly, but something that feels like thought pressing into their minds. It shows images too fast to focus on, flashes of stars falling, cities, burning, oceans boiling away. The sound becomes words, though they're not spoken in any language they know, yet they understand. It offers power, the kind to end any enemy, to protect any world, to shape the galaxy itself, all for the cost of letting it inside their minds. Lien whispers that it is lying, that nothing so powerful comes without taking more than it gives, but her voice trembles. Reyes feels the weight of choice heavy in his hands. The Drether have given them no orders, now only this silent test. The crowd above waiting, the galaxy beyond, perhaps watching unseen. He steps closer, and the sphere's light flares, flooding the chamber with blinding brilliance. In the light, Reyes sees visions that are not his own, humans standing at the head of fleets that blot out the stars, alien empires kneeling or burning at their command, worlds remade in shapes that please them alone, and then darker visions, the same fleets turned against their own kind, the sky of Earth burning, the oceans filled with ash, the sound of his own voice giving orders he cannot remember, deciding to give. He staggers back, the light dimming, as if disappointed, the pull still strong in his chest. Cole mutters that maybe this is why no one wins the trial. Maybe the Real end is here. When the choice is made, Nia steps forward, her face pale but steady, and says they came here to prove humanity's spirit could not be broken, and bending to this thing would break it in ways no battle ever could. She reaches out and grips Reyes' shoulder, pulling him back from the pedestal. The sphere pulses faster as if sensing defiance. The hum of the crystal spires rises into a sharp ringing that drills into their skulls. The floor beneath them begins to crack, thin lines spreading outward from the pedestal, glowing with the same light. As the sphere, the Drether commander's voice echoes once more from the shadows, saying that very few have refused, and those who do are changed not by the sphere, but by the choice itself. Without warning, the cracks burst open, and a column of blue light erupts from the pedestal, shooting into the unseen heights above. The force knocks them backward as the ground shakes, dust falling from the dark ceiling. The light from the sphere vanishes, and the pedestal crumbles to black dust. The ringing fades, replaced by the distant sound of the crowd above. But it is different now. No roar of bloodlust, no rhythm of hate, only silence that stretches long and deep. The commander steps forward again, his mask tilting slightly. He tells them they're free to leave. The trial is over, and the Drether will not stand against humanity, though he warns that others who watch may not feel the same. He turns and walks away, his form fading into the darkness without a sound. A new gate opens at the far side of the chamber, a ramp leading up toward faint daylight. Reyes looks at his team, their faces tired, but unbroken. The cold still clinging to their skin, yet the fire in their eyes stronger than when they entered. They climbed the ramp together, emerging into the pale light of an alien sky. The arena, now empty, the stands deserted, as if the crowd had never been there at all. They make their way back to their ship, the hangar, silent save for the echo of their footsteps. The Drether ships loom in the distance, unmoving, watching perhaps in ways unseen, as the human vessel lifts off the ground, the alien world falling away beneath them into the clouds. In the quiet of the cabin, Nia sits by the viewport, watching the stars as they slip into the black. She asks Reyes what he saw in the light. He does not answer, not because he will not, but because he cannot put it into words, and perhaps because part of it still lingers in the back of his mind, a whisper that will never truly fade as the ship speeds toward home, carrying not victory nor defeat, but something far heavier than knowledge of what they turned away from and the shadow of what it might have made them.